Yes.
Owner of Slingshot Branding and PR LLC, Paul M. has over a decade's worth of experience working in communications. He began working as a freelance photographer in 1999, specializing in food photography, working for such clients as Silent Delivers and the Mayo Clinic. His eye for impactful images being utilized online led him to work directly on website management in 2004. Paul's love for reading, telling stories, and a knack for sniffing out PR opportunities became apparent as his website clientele began enjoying earned media placements in newspapers, magazines, online articles, and television. He's worked with a variety of businesses and individuals, including Fox Searchlight Pictures, successful PR placements including notable outlets, Travel and Leisure Magazine, Fortune, Reader's Digest, BuzzFeed, Backstage, Lake Minnetonka Magazine, Star Tribune Newspaper, Writer, Press, Screen Magazine, Jason Show, The Jason Show, Care 11 News, WCCO Morning Show, The Lori and Julia Radio Show, and much more. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Paul M.
I was hoping that Matt was actually going to stand here the whole time and just hold it for me. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
So, I am Paul, and thank you for reading that intro. How's everybody doing? Woo! It is so good to see people in person, so I'm glad that you're all here. I'm really glad to be here and to be able to talk about something that I am personally really passionate about. I love branding. I love PR. Branding is very closely related to marketing. I love all of that kind of stuff. And before I totally dive into that, I actually tested this out yesterday, my talk today, and I was talking to my sister Christy, and I was like, let me try this out on you. And she's like, yeah, you should tell them a joke, to start it. And I was like, well, what would I tell them? And she's like, well, just tell them you're going to vote for it. So I am going to tell you who I'm going to go vote for to get really political. I am going to vote for a 70-something white guy.
That's tough.
Exactly. So today, during our talk, I want to really convey a few simple things. We don't have a ton of time, so I just want to relay to you, we have about 10-15 minutes that I'm going to be talking. Branding is a complex, confusing thing to a lot of people. And some of the reasons probably will become apparent as we start talking about it. So I just want you to know, you're not going to learn branding in 10 minutes. That's just not a thing. There's one photographer in there. Are there more photographers here? Well, there's a lot of photographers, yeah. So in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, can you explain to me how to be a photographer? I'm just trying to set your expectations up here if you can't tell. So on your tables in front of you, there is a little bit of a fast brand elements. And I just wanted to refer to that a little bit because there's a lot of different things that go into a brand and kind of creating it. You don't have to memorize these. I wanted them as a reference point because as we're talking a little bit and stuff, I'm going to probably throw some things at you, and if you've never heard of certain things, totally fine. But I don't want to totally dumb it down either, so that if you hear something and you're later you come to it, you're like, oh, I heard that. So for a baseline of branding, does anybody here have any ideas on branding? Can you give me some thoughts? There are no wrong answers. I will kind of direct this, so don't feel like you're embarrassed at all. But what's something that comes to mind when you think of branding? Yes, Chris.
A logo.
A logo. Yes. That's something that I actually often get because a lot of times in the work that I do, I work with websites, and people are like, "Well, here's my logo," and I'm like, "That's awesome," because it is a part of your brand. But where I often go off or people go off the rails, or there's a little bit of a misconception that I run into personally, and I hope everybody else kind of understands what I'm talking about. Your brand is not just your logo. So oftentimes people are like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I work in branding. And they're like, oh, that's cool. Why don't need you? I have a logo. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a good piece to have, but it's not the whole. I'll pick on you, Chris. Are you a parent or are you pets? No, none of that. Actually, do you mind standing up once for me, Chris? So Chris is wearing a very nice sweater. That sweater is Chris. No?
Yeah.
The sweater, your sweater. That's kind of what I think of. Like it's how you're presenting yourself to the world with the clothes that you wear, and that would be very much your brand. That would fall under the kind of a brand identity, but it's not everything that makes up your brand, because the clothes, while they may make the man, they do not make the entirety of the man. Thank you, Chris. You can sit down. So that's a little bit of a concept with branding that I think it's often misunderstood. Is it's more than just the visual. The visual plays a huge part in it, but it's not the whole. I just want to jump back. Oh, yes.
Performance standards is part of your brand.
Yes, absolutely. When you say performance standards are part of your brand, I'm going to assume you mean part of because I know that you work with flowers and stuff, and if you show up and you give a bad experience to a client, is that kind of what you mean? Like you're operating at a certain level. Yes, so you have high performance standards, so yeah, that's excellent. That is a big part of it as well. When I start working with customers and clients and stuff, again, it seems like they definitely focus on the visual elements without focusing on how do you sound when you pick up the phone? Because that actually relates a lot to people too.
Specialty or specialist?
Specialty or specialist?
Right. That's a brand that, like a doctor would be, I specialize in this area of
An expertise. Yeah. That can definitely play into, that definitely plays into a brand, yes. And it would be very important for marketing to convey that. Yeah?
Your brand personality.
Yes, brand personality. Can you give me an example of that?
Like your tone of like how you convey your messaging, like your copy.
Yes, absolutely. And part of what we're going to touch on today relates kind of directly to that too. But yeah, brand personality is an important piece of informing your marketing messaging, basically informing everything. But yeah, if you are, tell me your name.
It's Taylor.
Taylor, and who do you work with?
I work with the wedding guys, but I come from a marketing agency background.
You come from a marketing agency background, awesome. So the wedding guys has a certain personality, a certain vibe, a certain way that they present themselves. So yeah, your brand personality relates directly to marketing. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because this is another misconception I think that comes about, is that branding is marketing. Branding is closely related to and informs marketing, but branding is not marketing. Branding goes deeper than that.
sorry.
No, you're good, you're good. Did everybody here drive in a car today? Are you your car? So marketing is a vehicle, that's how I like to look at it, that's what I think about it. I think is that marketing is used to deliver your brand. And it can be very much, again, a part of like representing your brand. You maybe if you show up in a rusted out old beater, it says something about you and about who you are, but it's not, again, necessarily you. So those are some misconceptions. You're raising your hand, yes.
Yeah, there's two different ways to look at a brand. It's how you look, how you want yourself to be perceived.
Have you been reading my notes?
No. A brand is really how the public sees you.
Yes. Yes.
Not how you market yourself, but how it's received on the consumer end.
Yeah, and that's actually right. It's as if you magically read my notes. Because he said, just for anybody that's listening online, a brand is not, I'm going to reword it slightly, but a brand is not what you say it is. Your brand is not what you say it is. Your brand exists in the minds of other people. And there's a beauty to that. It's also complex and complicated. The beauty of it, for me, is that because it exists in the minds of other people, a brand can be a person, it can be a place, it can be a thing, it can be an event, it can be many things. While you don't get to say what your brand is completely, you can definitely have an effect, and you should be striving to shape that brand in the minds of other people. I have a little story actually to kind of go along with this. So years ago, I used to work at a flower shop, and I worked in customer service. I did, slinging buckets in the back. And it became apparent that I was like, oh, I'm actually pretty good with websites. So the owner of the flower shop, her name is Mary Lou. I adore her. I still talk to her to this day. Hey, Mary Lou. And I was on the shop floor, just me, alone, in the store. Mary Lou was in the back, and in walks a bride. And I was like, how can I help you? I didn't know that she was a bride. She wasn't wearing a dress or anything. And she walks in, and I was like, how can I help you today? And she's like, oh, I'm here. I'm getting married next year, and I'm looking to have somebody show me how to do some flowers. I might want to do a little DIY. I'm not really sure, And I was like, when was your wedding date again? And she's like, it's next October. So it was like, it was a little over a year away. She no sooner says this than I hear Mary Lou in the back, and Mary Lou yells out. Mary Lou doesn't come out. She just yells out, Paul, step away from that woman and tell her to leave. Get out of here. We don't need her work. We don't want her work. She's not going to hire us. She's just going to steal our ideas. Tell her to go. That was the expression on the bride. That was my expression too. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't really. Me and the bride just stood there like, should we move? Like, I don't know what's happening. And so we didn't move, and Mary Lou then yells again, did you tell her? And I was just like, whoa. So Mary Lou gets up, she marches out, and she's like, get out. We don't need your business. You're just, you're not. She's like, when is your? I think I heard right, but your wedding's not until next year. And the bride was like, unfortunately, she wasn't really one of those like in your face. Like she was starting to cower, and I was feeling really bad. It's like, Mary Lou, like, what the heck are you doing? And so they talked like for 2 seconds, and then the bride left. And Mary Lou just like walks by, and she's like, get back to work. And I was like, what just happened? Because on the website that I'm working for the flower shop, the flower shop, by the way, is spelled S-H-O-P-P-E, like very European, and all of the messaging and the personality on the website is presented as this very charming, lovely, beautiful flower arrangements. I do have to say, the flower arrangements match the messaging. They're stunning, they're beautiful. But the verbiage used and the personality being presented is like, come in and visit and you'll be whisked away on this beautiful journey. What do you think happened to that bride when she left in her head for the brand that is the flower shop?
She was whisked away on a beautiful
She was whisked away on a beautiful journey. Actually, and this is the fun, I have mentioned this too in some other talks, and actually there was a gal that looked up on her phone, and she was like, oh yeah, you're not lying, Paul. The reviews confirm everything you're saying. And so actually what I did while I was working on the website, I started to put that into the website. I actually put front and center. I was like, we're bold, brashy, sassy, blunt, all of these words that you would maybe not necessarily want if you weren't. And actually some of the reviews online started to reflect that. People were actually saying in the reviews, they were like, I didn't believe the website. And then I went and I visited, and if you want to have a good time, go visit the flower shop. So a lot of the clients that started to come in, like, this was again, like, 6 or 7 months later, but I was in the flower shop again, and Mary Lou was having a fight with her husband in the store. And it was interesting because the customers that were in there, I was watching them, and there was a gentleman there, and I was like, so how are you? And as this fight's going on, I'm trying to have a normal conversation. It's just very weird. And the guy's like, no. He's like, no, this is why I'm here. trying to shift the marketing message to accurately reflect the brand, to actually reflect like what was actually going on in that space. I do a lot of work on websites, and I do a lot of work with clients in that regards, and that's why I love branding so much, because it's really digging in. It's like, what is your essence? What is driving you? What matters to you? For the flower shop in particular, because I've been saying so many fun things about them, I have to say, like, Mary Lou is one of the biggest hearted people that I've ever met, which is interesting because she has this duality. And it's interesting because people that know her well adore her and love her, and she's so giving, yet it comes in this brash package. So conveying that through marketing and through messaging is an interesting struggle. But that's more of what branding comes down to, is something that I want to actually move into for our purposes, because I think that your brand, it matters, because there's so many small business owners here, but not even just the small business owners, even the men and women that work as coordinators at places like the Majestic Oaks. Really grasping the brand, you can do such great things. So if you're not an entrepreneur in the room today, this still works, because branding, again, like I said earlier, branding applies to people, it applies to events, it applies to places, it applies to things. So what I want us to do, and I'm going to time this because we're only going to take 2 minutes to do it, so don't overthink it too much. But there's a test that I like to kind of give people. It's an obituary test. So if you have a pen and the paper in front of you, we'll take 2 minutes. The obituary test it's very basic. Imagine, say, 10, 15, 25 years. What do you want said of your business? What do you want said of you? Specifically for our use today, like if you actually have a company, think about what you want said of your company. But if you don't own a company, think of personal brand. Think of what is it that you actually want said of you. Outline, what was it that you did that was great, and why is the world a better place because your specific company existed. So I'm going to time you, we'll take 2 minutes, and this will relate to what we work on in a little bit on our table topics too. So, does anybody have any questions on that? It looks like you're all pretty good. Go.
And now a word from our sponsor. I'm Michelle Twerberg, your host, and I just have to tell you about this honeymoon treehouse that I recently toured at historic Hopeland Farm and Vineyard in Cottage Grove, Minnesota. It's a 1,200 square foot treehouse, has 4 levels, 4 decks, 2 fireplaces. It's absolutely incredible. Hopeland Farm is one of the most sought after wedding, ceremony, and reception venues in the Twin Cities area. They have thought of absolutely everything to make your wedding day spectacular. Visit them at hopeglenfarm.com. And now back to our show.
5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And why I really like this, if it isn't kind of apparent, I really like that this can inform. There's a brand strategy. There's different things. I'm sure that some of you have come across this before, even probably in your personal life, but. I think it's really good for us as business owners and people in our lives just to reflect and be like, what is it that we want to achieve and accomplish? So later in the table topic, I think it would be good for us to have people at your table, especially if you know each other a little bit, to kind of bounce those ideas and sharpen them. But maybe also ask each other, like, are some of these things reflected in my work, in my brand? It's an interesting exercise. So we'll obviously come back to that a little bit in the table topic, but I wanted to end on something that I think is super fun. Brand Awareness Jeopardy. So I'm going to give you the Jeopardy answer, so to speak, and I'm trying to think of how to do this because it's a big room. Maybe can we refrain from screaming out the answer, or will you guys just tell me who said it first?
We'll help.
You'll help. Okay. Awesome. Well, I have Then let's start. For the prize of chocolate truffles, name the romantic holiday associated with love. Madonna. What is Valentine's Day? I will give you. I was going to throw these out, but I think I probably shouldn't. It's kind of light. It's kind of light. I'll give it to you right after. Question number 2, again, for a chocolate truffle. There's other prizes in here, by the way. For a chocolate truffle, the international city known for love. Boom!
She phrased it correctly.
You did. What is Paris, France? All right, for a full big bottle of Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, yeah, who's ready? Who's ready? Coca-Cola expresses the idea of a loving family during Christmas using what animal?
What is polar bear?
Boom!
Woo!
You ready to catch it? This is a double question. And I have to find it because I always forget where I'm at here because there's a bunch of prizes in here. This is a double question, so there's 2 answers. An alien loves these, and we find out that they love this candy in what 1980s movie?
What is E.T.? What is Reese's Pieces?
I love it, Ryan. Yes. Yes. This prize, the prize is the answer. So, this brand promises that you will love their product so much that once you pop, you can't stop.
Oh, man.
And I have for the final one, I have a double question.
Okay.
And the prize is the necklace that I'm wearing. So, this iconic media personality did a publicity stunt saying, "You get a car! You get a car! You get a car!"
Who's Oprah?
Yes, yes. Let's actually win the prize.
Who is Oprah?
Nope. Nope. There's a second part to the question. What brand car was it?
What is Kia? Pontiac.
What is Chevy?
Do you guys are so on. Can you give me just a little more?
Pontiac Grand Prix. What is the Kia Sportage?
Pontiac right now.
I remember Pontiac.
I'm trying to think of how to break that tie because Kelly and Amy, I mean, woof, woof. It was a Pontiac. It was a Pontiac G6 sedan. So I don't know if I have a question that can break that tie.
What is Oprah's boyfriend's name?
What's that?
Kelly, yes, the necklace is yours. Oh, thank you everybody so much. I'll be around if you have any questions. And for the table topic, I don't know if we're moving directly into that. Yeah, we'll be moving right into the table topic. Yeah, talk amongst yourselves. I think it'd be a good idea. There are no right or wrong answers with this obituary test, but throw some ideas around with each other. Talk about. I especially like the idea that because a lot of people here in the room know each other, and you know each other, so I think it would be an invaluable thing. Throw some of the obituary testings at each other, but also maybe get some feedback on do you see my brand the way that I see it? Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.